and I would like him to join me here. He will present us very interesting project about, no, you will be here and present from the stage. Later we will sit here. So, Samir, welcome to Point Conference. Yeah, take your paper.
Hi everyone. My name is Semir Mojkic and I'm journalist at Balkan Investigative Reporting Network here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What we did the last year is the result of our frustrations and our work that we did for almost 3 years now. We were trying to see how much money our government is spending on official cars. So we were chasing case by case for each car to see what the problems there are. So we were trying to explain to the people what the biggest problem with public procurements in Bosnia is. So we picked up official or government's car because we thought it's the best example and the best case for explaining it to people, because everyone owns a car and everyone knows how much they pay for the car, what they were requesting, what were the most important things for them. They understand what are the details about the car, and if they see that something is not wrong with it, they can recognize it. For example, in another cases, when you buy medical equipment or some construction works, it's really hard for people to understand what is wrong with the public procurements there. So we wanted to show it in the best way how our money is being spent. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, a yearly number for public procurements goes from 1 billion euros to around 1.5 or even 2 billion euros a year. So we were really interested in how much do we spend on government's car, because it's something that people could relate to, people when they see in which cars are the government official coming to work. You can actually see the database that we did at auta.detektor.ba. We tried to make it as interactive as possible and searchable as possible. In the end, the result that we got is that last year almost 50 million euros were worth of tenders for official or government cars, and they spent more than 20 million euros on cars. It's just and majority of it's luxury limousines, it's not ambulances or fire trucks or things like that. So we were able to show a lot of things that are wrong with public procurements in Bosnia with this database that we did. The other thing that we were trying to do for years is to see which cars they already own, not just what they are buying at the moment. And as you know, the Bosnia is a complicated system, so we have a lot of different levels of governance. So insisting on getting all these data by FOI request or any other request, it's almost impossible. So we were trying to see what would be the best way to disclose this information to the people. For example, how many cars our presidency have, or if there is some local politician and he is in charge of public company or municipality, what car does he drive? So we were collecting for more than a year all this data from public procurement portal. We realized that if you look at the documents of insurance tenders for cars, there is a list and there's usually a price to that car. So if you click on that part of the website, you can actually see all in digital format, which cars they own, how much do they cost, and similar things. That is something that we brought to this area of public procurements. We made it digital. The problem before was that all this data was usually hidden somewhere on portal of public procurements. You couldn't actually save it, download it to your computer. So we had to register as if we are the one of the companies that is actually bidding, because the portal of public procurements is still not that transparent and open to the public. So we also had a problem there when in the middle of our work they just decided that non-governmental organizations are not going to be able to see things on that portal. So we had to use another trick to register as any other company, to use a company account to be able to download it. So that is something that we are trying to bring to the people, to see all the documents that are not in the first place designed to be completely transparent to the people. The database is live. We are updating it every day, bringing more data on it, and it's completely searchable. And the other thing that we were managed to see and to prove is that vast majority of tenders, there's only one bidder, which is actually showing to us that the whole market for government cars is actually rigged from the beginning. And you could almost say who is going to win the tender when it's announced. So we also have a list of companies that won more tenders, and it's designed not just for the people to see, but also for journalists and researchers to see and to explore the data. And I invite you to see the database, to explore it. And if you have any other questions on how we did it and what can you find, I will be happy to answer it. Okay.
Thank you very much. You can join me here at seats that you want to take. I would just like to ask you one short question. Why the cars are always a problem in Bosnia? Because the procurements of cars are always eclatant example of how people are taking money from public procurement. So why you choose cars, not something different?
Yeah, I was saying things about it. It's interesting because people can relate. It's something that most of the people in Bosnia, they already have a car. They were buying and selling the car. They know the price. They know the specifics and details. People in Bosnia like their cars. They like to know everything about their cars. So if you see, for example, that some local politicians, which municipality doesn't have enough money for heating, for example, a lot of municipalities in Bosnia don't have central heating, the heating for the whole town. And then you see a local mayor who's buying a car which is worth 50,000 euros. And you see that he's asking for heating in his seats, for example. That is something that people can relate. That's the luxury we cannot afford. And it's also, how to say, it's something that they like to spend money on. So they always do it, they always overpay. So that's a great example to see who is behaving well and who is not behaving well. The other thing is that we just have too many cars and the expenses are too big. We also have a part of database which is saying about the costs of everything, how much the insurance costs, how much the fuel costs. So when you sum up all these numbers, you wouldn't expect us to be a poor country. You couldn't say that when you see this database and see this data. For example, there are cars which are worth like 80 or 100,000 euros, which is ridiculous for a country, one of the poorest countries in Europe. So that was our idea, to show people what are they doing, how are they spending our money, and to make it more transparent. In the end, to make the whole system better. We already had the results since we are tracking the procurement from the beginning. Then we are writing to them asking, why did you put this? Why did you do this? So sometimes it happens, and we had those cases that they actually managed to change the procurement or cancel it at all.
Yeah, while in Bosnia, public officials buying like expensive cars in Europe, and the other countries outside Europe, politicians compete who will use public transport and stuff.
Yeah, and the current situation in Bosnia is that after 5 years we again have these huge floods. So we were also you can also use this database to show how many fire trucks, for example, that we need during the floods, how many fire trucks did we bought in the last couple of years. So if you look at the fire trucks, for example, I think that for Kakan municipality, we calculated that the average age of fire trucks is 33 years, which is, they're obviously too old. And when you look at the limousines, they are brand new.
Thank you very much, Samir. I hope that we will have some time for maybe some questions from the audience. But now I would like to invite my dear colleague. I think it will be like third or fourth time that we are presenting together the interesting projects from Albanian Institute of Science. Please welcome, join me on the stage. From cars, we are moving to assets malversation during the election period in Albania. Please.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Besiana Hysa. I work for Albanian Institute of Science in Albania. We are a small NGO, and one of our newest projects is monitoring abuse of public assets by state-owned companies during electoral periods, as you are seeing in the monitor. Now I have to learn how to go. I think it's this one. So, I'm listing some facts. So we know that illicit use of money and public resources in many countries jeopardize the integrity and quality of the electoral process. Groups with access to public resources try to influence the outcome of election by using such resources for partisan purposes. But in Albania, I'm going to Albania, ministries and municipalities in Albania currently run and manage 220 state-owned companies, and you can find all of those listed to our platform, opencorporates.al. These companies play a significant role in the country's economic life, as they provide essential public services as water supplies or energy supplies, and they manage public money and assets. In our case, the company executives are appointed by institutions who own these companies, mostly ministries and municipalities. This is not merit-based at all, and there is no formula or competition process. Executives are often politically affiliated or appointed through nepotism, and there are no laws or regulations to ensure good governance of state-owned companies. So, in our previous last election in 2017, we had some reporting in our platforms for cases of misuse of public funds and assets managed by state-owned companies, mostly used in electoral events. For example, they pay for the phonia or for the cameras or for the event rooms, etc. Media promotions are also very used during the electoral time. These companies use these PR services to not only promote their work and their products, but also to promote officials of ministries and municipalities. And these companies, however, are not subject to monitoring by election task force that was before the last election created. What we see here is a report we had in last elections in one of our platforms, Zalar.al. And in the picture you can see a car that is owned by one of state-owned companies, that is the energy distributor system operator. The administrator of this company was distributing money for flood reimbursement of previous years in a very, very poor area in North Albania, in Shkodra. And they were distributing this money in not formal way to all the people, but only to those who declare that they will vote for the Socialist Party that is in the government now. Also, this is one of the checks that was also reported to our platforms, that one of the families there got. And this is the map of different reports we had in 2017 in our platform. For this year campaign, we are monitoring and analyzing the economic activities of the state-owned companies with the goal to identify cases of abuse or with funds and assets and human resources for electoral campaigns. We are doing so with monitoring procurements, state-owned companies procurements you can find in our platform. Also monitoring the changes in company administrators or board members. Sometimes we know that even though they are all the time nepotic or particularly decided during all the year, in the electoral process that we have some changes. And also we will monitor the company's expenditures and economic performance. In our platform there are 220 companies, passports and their changes. In the video I have opened the one that I have mentioned before for an energy distribution operator. And there are the list of the names and the assets and the financial expenditures. Okay. We also work with journalists and monitoring teams. And, okay, I went too fast. I'm not mentioning all the objectives we have one by one, but mostly we want to increase transparency by providing information, reports, instrumental tools for citizens to monitor and to control officials, and also to assist journalists to easily access this data. But we have a lot of challenges, mostly related to the electoral code, because they again fail to adopt the best electoral code. Elections are becoming difficult in Albania. We have in this moment protests in Tirana, and opposition parties refuse to participate in election under a government led by the current prime minister. Vote buying is also a very big challenge, because a lot of business related or drug traffickers are engaged in the process, and they are trying to buy and disordered electoral results. Local elections in Albania are to be held in June 30, and 30 municipalities out of 61 have only one candidate on race till now. And the situation is like in pictures. We have protests. So this is a pilot project, and there are no methodologies we are following, so we welcome the experience from other organizations or journalist groups from the region. And I'm concluding with a question, what are the best models in the region? You can contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Besiana. I just have one question. It's a short one. Please sit here because you have a mic. Do you have information what amount of money was manipulated during the election period in Albania, actually?
Okay, I think now it's open. So I cannot say on a fixed amount now, but normally we see through the procurements and through reports that there have been huge amounts. And maybe not amounts that are thought from the citizens living in Tirana and other countries, other cities in Albania.
Okay, and how this project and this tool...
But if you want a fixed number, I cannot give it.
Yeah, okay, it's really hard
Yeah.
to know exact number, and it's not precise. But what was the reaction of citizens, and especially journalists, when you published this tool?
Okay, we have a good relationship with the journalists, in fact. They are reusing our data a lot, not always mentioning us in their articles, but they are using the data. Sometimes we have, and we see that mostly from social medias and also some small protests, that we have some reaction. In Albania, we have started to have some reactions, but it's needed more.
Thank you very much. Please stay here. I think that it will be also interesting for some questions from audience. Now I would like to invite Melissa Skender. She is coming from GONG, Croatia. Is she here? Yeah, she is coming. We are stay on this field, actually, of politic connections. So we're listening a bit about the new project, Mosaic of Connections.
So, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, and thanks for this opportunity to present Gong's efforts to build fast fact-checking tools for journalists and general public. I would like to see the video first, if it's possible. So after video, because this video clip will show you what the Mosaic of Connection is. Is it ready for us to play it? So not the presentation, but the video. Thanks. Thank
What is the connection between religious institutions and the waste disposal company? The connection between a citizens association and political parties? Or the connection between secret services and sports clubs? To discover connections between companies, natural persons and politically exposed persons, state-owned and private companies, or even public institutions, you don't need high-tech surveillance equipment. The public can gain access to all these data according to the Act on the Right of Access to Information. However, the same data is scattered in hundreds of different public registers and databases of public bodies. From now on, thanks to the efforts of the civil society organization Gong, all of the data and its connections are processed and merged together in the Mosaic of Connections, a web platform which represents a central base of accumulated and processed public information from public registers and databases of public bodies. The Mosaic of Connections allows for searching connections of persons and companies, filtering and analysis depending on the criteria of connections between politically exposed persons and different persons and institutions using an attractive visualization and dynamic overview of the search results. Mosaic of Connections is a valuable source of information and a tool for fighting corruption and developing more transparent government. The Mosaic of Connections makes access to information from public bases and registers faster and simpler. It enables the work of investigative journalists, activists, and researchers to be more efficient.
So, thanks a lot. This is a short and more attractive version of what the Mosaic of Connection is. And now I hope you are interested in how it works. So, where is this? Thanks. How to work with that? So this should... Okay then, now we are solving those technical issues. So basically, it's enough, if you are interested in any Croatian political exposed person, it's enough to enter its name, the name of the person or a company, in this big search box that we have at the front page of Mosaic Veza. I choose Davor Šuker because he is a famous football player, and probably you heard for him. So when we searched Davor Šuker in Mosaic of Connection, we saw that we have two persons named Davor Šuker, and we are interested in this one up at the beginning of this list, because it has like this yellow, tiny yellow guy, which is the mark for the political exposed persons. Davor Šuker is political exposed person because he is president of Croatian Football Federation. So when we click on Davor Šuker, we will get all the relevant information obtained from the public sources, and it's shown his connections with other people and a legal subject. We were interested in this Svetice sport, so we go here and then click on this big gray button at the top of this presentation, which will show us this picture from Svetice Sport. Svetice Sport is in the center, and then we saw like Davor Šuker is connected, and how Davor Šuker is connected with Zdravko Mamić. You can also search Zdravko Mamić. He is a person with lots of connections. He is like a convicted felon in Croatia, and currently he lives in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where Croatian couldn't reach him and put him in the jail. It's interesting because, as we see in this press clip from daily newspaper Slobodna Dalmacija, Svetica Sports Company managed to sign like a really huge deal with Zagreb's mayor, worth around, well, 16 million of euros. So now we have just like Croatian political exposed person in this database, but we would like to connect this political exposed person from Croatia with the political exposed persons from all around the world, well, from the region and European Union at least. Any country that has an act on the right of access to information could join us, and believe us, we have lots of experience with all kind of messy data, so don't be afraid of it. For example, Mosaic Veza is the only source with a cleaned and verified database of Croatian PEPs person from 90s till today, because the official database isn't clean and doesn't have all the information in it. And we have 2 full-time employees that work on cleaning and verifying this information for 6 months. It took them 6 months to do it. Besides that, in Mosaic could be all for several months, since public bodies in Croatia are not publishing dynamic data, so updating can be automated and we have to do all by hand. So that's the reason we have high hopes in Public Sector Information Directive from European Union, which should stimulate the publishing of dynamic data and the uptake of application program interfaces. Plus, the register of the beneficial owners should be open at all Union member states by the end of this year, or maybe at the beginning of the next, like in Croatia. And it would be nice to match the data of beneficial owners with the data on political exposed persons. I hope not just from Croatia, but from other countries too. And this is an invitation for you to join us with your ideas on how to connect all the dots in the wider cross-border picture. So, just a second, I will show you like the list of those persons that Mosaic Veza is good for. Mosaic of connections, and then the list of persons that are not very happy about Mosaic Veza existing. So Mosaic Veza, or Mosaic of connection, Mosaic Veza is Croatian version, is a tool that enables investigative journalists, activists, and the interest public in general to verify information instantly by using data taken from public registers and databases. The idea was to produce the fast fact-checking tool suitable for the rapid production of information today, not to mention that they come from numerous and not always relevant sources, as we can hear already today. And this will be the last. This is the list of all Croatian public databases that we managed to put in Mosaic of connection so far. And I have to state that, among other things, Mosaic is an efficient tool to make pressure on the governments to open public data. So all of this, we managed to do it thanks to Mosaic of connection. And for some battles, like this commercial court register, it took us like 3 or 4 years to fight with this act to access to information to get the data, not in APIS, but as Excel table, which is better than we have normally. So that's it. Thanks a lot. And if you are interested in how Mosaic Veza works and how you can join us, please, this is the email address, and I'm here till Saturday morning, so please do not hesitate to contact me and ask me whatever you are interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Just a little bit. Do you have any example that media in Croatia use your database to uncover some kind of big story, or
Yes, we already have some workshops for journalists. It's not like a tool that will solve all problems, but it's like a fast tool that you will manage to find like clues. So after that, you will have to dig up yourself if you want to find really good stories.
How many time you spend to collect all information for this database?
Well, like how long we work on it. Well, we work on it in like 2 years, and it's not finished, of course. So it will take us probably at least 2 years to sort all of data, because these 2 years, the first 2 years, we were like focusing on gathering as much data as possible, and now we are in the stage that we want to sort this data to be like more user experience for user experience quality.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next presentation, we are moving to Macedonia. The next presenter will be Filip Stojanovski from Metamorphosis Foundation, and he will present us how they are dealing with fake news and the situation in Macedonia and in regional context too.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be again at Point and to share the knowledge and also to learn a lot. Whoops. I'll be sharing some of our experiences in debunking cross-border disinformation, but it starts with domestic disinformation. It's based on our values as an organization, and basically what I'm going to present are some stories, and also the issue that while we share stories here from the region, we see that not too many stories are shared throughout the region from between the media spheres. We base our approach on our experiences in supporting independent and pluralistic journalism, then on fact-checking based on political fact-checking through the Truth Meter and the Media Fact-Checking Service, which I will tell you more about it. And also, as a synthesis, we have an approach that is based on not only dealing with these two areas, but taking the wider context. So we started in 2011 with the fact-checking through Truth Meter with the help of Why Not and CERTA and CDT from Montenegro, as part of a network of organizations that were doing the same thing. But we soon found out that, or realized, that it's not only the politicians who are in need of being fact-checked, but also the media. We developed a methodology of the fact-checking service based on the Truth Meter approach, and it's also based on the Code of Journalists. This was an open methodology which was also in compliance with our membership in the International Fact-Checking Network, and it also led this open approach to cooperation and synergies with other organizations, including our colleagues from Egypt, who also used some of this, and also we believe it was a model to spread around the region. We are currently working on a synthesis of all these experiences, combining them with the need to increase media literacy and critical thinking, both within the media, within the general public, especially between the users of social networks, and also to incite change within the educational system, which is the basis for creating civic-minded citizens who will be able to fact-check for themselves. I will share a few examples of what we have to deal with, because they are also examples which have affected the cross-border disinformation. For instance, we had a big event last year, solving the 30-year-old problem with Greece through an agreement based on a huge compromise. One of the disinformation related to this example was clear political disinformation about the effects of of this agreement, but there was also types of disinformation which claimed that, for instance, the Nostradamus prophet prophesied that precisely around this time the Macedonia will be destroyed because of a person who looked like the prime minister. This is really type of disinformation which you might find laughable because you're educated, you're liberal, and you have been exposed to many types of information. But for a segment of the population, this works. And it might not work that they actually believe about Nostradamus or whatnot, but it's basically is part of a system that continuously feeds them with this information and lowers their ability for critical thinking. Some of the disinformation about these political issues is easy to debunk. For instance, if they use some sort of paint or Photoshop to create fake images about non-existent damage to the new boards after Macedonia name change, it's easy to debunk. But even if some people are able to see this for themselves, there is a huge amount or huge number of people who use the social networks, who use the media, who are not able to self-inoculate against this type of disinformation. We are trying to also gather this information and present it in different ways, also using our approach, which is basically also adding another layer of explaining the context and trying to find ways to network with all the stakeholders in order to have a comprehensive approach. However, when we started dealing with disinformation about the situation in Macedonia, which was then reused in the region, we realized that one big factor is that there has been no really essential communication between the Balkan countries. So many of the basic facts are not known even between neighboring countries such as Macedonia, Kosovo, or North Macedonia and Kosovo, with Serbia, with Greece, especially with Bulgaria, Albania. And therefore, we realized we have to also provide the context. Some of this information could be very benign. For instance, this is a classic example of not so dangerous disinformation. This is a story about how the citizens of North Macedonia like to go to Thessaloniki in Greece for a holiday. And anybody who is from Greece would see that this is not a picture of Thessaloniki, but of Venice. But for somebody, it was good enough to use it. However, with Greece, we had much more serious problems. And this is an example of disinformation story that really required work from people from both sides of the border. So including first the Truth Meter team in Macedonia, and then cooperation with Greek journalists to realize the problem, because many newspaper or media in North Macedonia showed these images, which were satirical ridiculing of right-wing propaganda against North Macedonia as an example of hate speech that all Greeks promote against their neighbors. So it was really an issue that needed to be explained to a much bigger detail. We also deal with issues which are very common, like the disinformation about vaccines. And we can clearly see that when the anti-vaccination campaign started, the anti-vaxxers had real effect on the health of people in North Macedonia. And this is also a Europe-wide phenomenon, as it's shown by other researchers. And I think it affects now also the US and other countries. However, in order to basically share this information, we realized we have to also use the language of the people who need to be educated. So we introduced translation of this debunking into different languages and of the neighboring countries, but also continuously into Albanian, which is used not only by a huge portion of the population in North Macedonia, but also at least 3 neighboring countries. So what we saw from the previous sessions, I will not go into many details because some of our colleagues explained that we have also recycling of narratives which have a very particular purpose over the last 30 years maybe, or even before. And they're reused or repackaged in order to basically hinder or stop or freeze solving of some inter-country regional issues, and basically create apathy among the citizens and stop the progress towards European Union and NATO membership. A pattern of disinformation emerges where a disinformation that has been created in one country with a local purpose can usually be taken cross-border and amplified with adding more and more false elements, and then is being imported back and has a much big damaging effect. This is not common for the Balkans also. Similar methods are used throughout Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, and Central Europe. For instance, narratives about how a certain language does not exist, which are basically provocations intended both to inflame nationalism within their core nation, but also within the targeted nation, because it tries to deny issues of identity, issues of different that stir emotions, are present both in the Russian aggression against Ukraine, denying the existence of Ukrainian identity, and also between several Balkan nationalisms, such as, I don't know, Bulgarian nationalists claiming Macedonian language does not exist, or a huge amount of narratives related to language rights of people. Oh, does this work? It's not working. We are stuck on the language issue. Can we do something? I have more. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, okay. So these types of identity issues, such as the language, have also been played both within, so it's like a pattern which we cannot really know if it's imported or grown domestically. But there are very similar approaches in the Balkans as are present in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. For instance, the issue of languages, laws that define language rights, have been manipulated both in Ukraine but also in Macedonia, where there have been new laws used as excuse for nationalist mobilization. Again, we are back with Nostradamus. For instance, a Serbian website was promoting the fake news about the visit of the Pope, who came to Macedonia, to North Macedonia and Bulgaria last week, and claiming that Nostradamus prophesied that he would be assassinated there. This was really this type of disinformation has impact on people who maybe want to visit a certain event or participate in elections, threat of violence as a message. Another story is how an Albanian media from Albania basically used old footage of former Prime Minister of North Macedonia, Gruevski, who is now fugitive from the law, and taken from the internet, claiming that it was footage from his escape at the border. This was debunked easily by our colleagues because they recognized that it's a footage from a political rally using cars a few years ago. But another story related to his escape was interesting because it combined different elements and it required debunking from different countries. When asked how do you think he escaped, because it's a mystery how he crossed several borders, one participant in a talk show said maybe he escaped as disguised as a woman. Some caricatures about this prime minister disguised as a woman appeared on social networks, and then very soon it was basically news. But to debunk all this type of disinformation from different countries also included a combination of information, for instance, also from Serbia, from Raskrikavanje. So, in conclusion, I would like to share the notion that facts are basic, but they are not enough. We need to have also a sensitivity about the audiences, and if we talk about cross-border debunking, then we have to take into account what the audiences in the neighboring countries or in other countries actually know about the background of the problem before just sharing the facts or the fact-checking, because otherwise they would have very little effect. So, in conclusion, I would only share a small anecdote, because what we deal here is that even though some stories are debunked, they resurface again, like vampires. And I was thinking maybe we can compare the modern-day fact-checkers or debunkers to vampire slayers. And here in the Balkans, we actually have had actual people with the profession of vampire slayers. One of them was called Kurto the Vampire Slayer, and he was not the same person from the Bosnian proverb about two persons, Kurto and Murto, who change places in power. But he was an actual person living in town of Prilep in the around 1840s, who was providing the service of psychological release of people who thought that they were haunted by vampires. And in order to do it, it was not enough to tell the people, okay, there are no vampires who is going to haunt you tonight, but he made elaborate rituals, like he would tell the host of the house who thought that they were haunted to slay a chicken and give him the blood, and then roast the chicken and make a feast. And at the end of the feast, he would make a show of shooting the vampire with a gun, who was supposedly around the house, and then spill the blood of the chicken to show them that it was actually done. So it was really a ritual that can be compared to the process of fact-checking. There is a huge amount of people who are not part of the intellectual level of that we belong to, within our bubble. We have to find ways to approach them and to convey the messages in a way that they would understand and they would take it to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can join me here at this table. I already prepared one question for you, but I will leave it for later because we are a little bit running out of time. And I would like to invite real Robin Hood at the stage now. He is coming from Montenegro. His name is Darko Ivanovic. He is running his show for 10 years. He ran his show for 10 years, and now he is coming back at the television stronger and bigger and better. Please show us why are you so popular in Montenegro.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to share the story with you that actually dates back 13 years ago, and it actually is a story about a boy that dreamed a dream about using media to help other people. I had a show prior to Robin Hood that was called Insider, not the Belgrade one, Montenegrin one. It was a documentary, and it was very popular, and then I had this crazy idea about what about using media to help people. So all of you prying in your phones right now, listen to this very short story that really became regional a couple of months ago. So this is a regional initiative of Robin Hood TV show, and what we did in Montenegro is actually, it is very hard to get Montenegrins in front of the camera to say they have a problem, you know. And for a couple of months that we started the show, we had to pull them out of their chairs and, you know, put them in front of the camera to say something. And then they delivered their problems in flock. For 10 years we've been doing this show, and it is a service for citizens. You have a problem, you report to us, and then we go to fight your own battles in front of the institutions that deprive you of your rights, that, you know, deprive you of your rights to know something, from Fix My Street to high-end corruption. I was one of the journalists that was threatened, and my car was burned, and blah, blah, blah. So we figured out that the best way to help citizens is to use media towards the institutions that are not doing their job or they're corrupt. As you can see on the slide, they present a problem, then we deal with it, we make a story, and then you know, pinpoint the institution, and then the institution comes and I fight with them, literally inside the studio. So we don't confront the problem maker with and the problem solver with the ones that have the problem. So they call on the phone directly into the show, because Montenegrins love to fight between each other. Nothing will be solved, definitely. So what we figured out in these 10 years, we had 400 shows that were 70 minutes long. We had 1,100 stories aired and solved on screen and off screen. 70% of those cases were solved. We had a ratio that was even better than the courts themselves, and that was one of the most trusted and one of the most viewed shows ever in Montenegro. And in various reports by organizations, it was called the pillar of democracy. So how it went, I hope the video goes on. So this is one of the commercials that was, it had a prime time, so if we can have the tone, whatever. These are the people that are fighting against the system, and the system, yeah.
slučajeva riješili smo vaš problem i pokrenuli ga i stavili u fokus institucija. Ne zloupotrebljavajte vašu stolicu i u 9. sezoni sa vama. Vaša prva medijska pomoć.
Don't call this number, please, now.
Robin Hood, petak u 25 na prvom programu.
So this was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I had less tattoos and I was skinnier. So this is Robin Hood regional initiative in 5 countries. We have 5 productions and 5 investigative stories per show on 5 public broadcasting services. We have only problems with 2 negotiating right now, but we hope to deal with it. It is 5 stories, 5 investigative stories. It was a 70-minute show, and it is in 5 languages. That is, 3 are very common languages, Bosnian, Montenegrin, and Serbian. And then we have Albanian and Macedonian language. So it's a storytelling documentary, social networks interaction, and the transitional story, and common problems in all of the countries will be presented in that show. So what are the stakeholders? It is 35mm production in Montenegro, then beer production in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Serbia, and scoop production from Northern Macedonia. And they would kill me, actually, because it's Newsnet production, because they will have the satiric overview of all the situation, Dražić and company from Belgrade, which is actually a funny story. I met them here, and this place served...
That's why Point is a good...
Yes, yeah, Point is a good thing, because I met them here, and they are really serving the good purpose, the guys from Point. And I'm sharing this, I hope, success story for years and years to come, because we are planning to do it up until 2023 and further on. Once we go to EU, I hope that these things will vanish. This is my contact. It's all blue, but I hope you see it. So thank you for the attention, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Darko. It was very sweet and short. Now, since we have like 5 minutes left, I would like to invite you to address questions if you have for my today panelists, please. Any question? We had 5 speakers, please, guys. You don't have questions for 5 people behind me? No. Okay. Since I left one question for Philip, and I think it will be like nice Schlagwort, like introduction into a next panel discussion, which will talk about very known phenomenon of Macedonian fake news factories. What's your relation like? How are you dealing with news that are coming from those factories? Are you able to detect news that are produced in Macedonia and that they are spreading regionally, actually?
Well, yes, we have two types of news factories, basically disinformation factories. One are are based within the political and media collusion of existing political parties and their troll farms and the media who are complicit, especially with the right-wing populist regime that went out in 2017. And there are also entrepreneurs, which I think would be a subject of the next session, of people who produce news not on a regional level for the Balkans, but they are working globally because they address issues and topics and create this information for the audiences where the money is, because they usually go in for the money from the advertising schemes offered by big tech companies like Google or Facebook or others. But so they, I think, are active, as we will see. There are many of them, but they are not working usually regionally, because they are somehow the only segment of the disinformation ecosystem which is market-based. The others are funded by different local schemes based on the political party affiliation, while these ones are looking to import money from the West, either from the US or Western Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Philip. Now I think that we will finish this discussion and we will leave space for the next one. And please, we heard a lot of interesting things. Please approach our panelists today and ask them questions if you don't have questions now. Okay, thank you very much.